Did you know density is important in our everyday lives? Let's explore how density influences things like weather patterns, construction materials, and even cooking. First, let's consider how density affects air. Warmer air is less dense than cooler air. This is because heat causes the molecules in the air to spread out. As a result, warmer air rises and cooler air sinks. This movement of air creates convection currents, which are responsible for weather patterns such as wind and storms. The next time you feel a cool breeze on a warm day, remember that density is at work. We also consider density in the construction of buildings and bridges. Engineers carefully select materials based on their density and other properties to ensure structures are both strong and efficient. For example, steel is much denser than wood, which is why it's often used to support heavy loads in skyscrapers and bridges. Density even matters in the kitchen. For example, when you're baking, the density of ingredients like flour, sugar, and butter can affect the texture of the final product. Think about a loaf of bread. The dough rises because yeast produces gas, which makes the bread less dense and full of air pockets. That's why bread is light and fluffy. Compare that to something like a brownie, which is more dense and fudgy because it has fewer air pockets. You can also observe density in action with everyday objects. Take oil and water, for instance. Oil is less dense than water, which is why it floats on top when you mix the two. This is useful to know for things like cooking, but it also has larger implications. In the event of an oil spill in the ocean, oil floats on the water's surface. To test out density at home, you can perform a simple experiment using household items. Fill a glass with water and carefully drop in various objects, such as a marble, a wood block, or a piece of foil. Observe which objects sink and which float, and think about how their density compares to that of water. This hands-on activity will help you visualize and understand density in an easy way. Now, let's try to understand how to calculate density. We use a simple formula. This equation is D equals M over V. M is for mass. Mass tells us how much matter is in an object. V is for volume. Volume tells us how much space something occupies. Here's a simple way to remember the equation. Let's look at a broken heart. Do you see the M and V? Once you calculate the density, you can figure out if the object will sink or float in water. If the density is less than 1, then the object will float in water. If the density is greater than 1, the object will sink in water. Density is a property that is independent of the sample size. This means no matter how the size of something changes, its density stays the same. For example, no matter how much oil you have, it will always float in water. So next time you look around, think about how density plays a role in the world we live in.